everyone, welcome back to Parashat Pantry. This week we will be reading Parashat Bo, which comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 12. And it is a very well-known story, for this is the story that our holiday of Passover comes from. For we know that God has sent 10 plagues upon Egypt to try to convince Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. And we find ourselves in the moment when the Israelites are escaping Egypt. They are about to be free, and they have to go very quickly. In fact, they have to pack their things, grab their things, probably not everything that they could take with them on their journey, and head out from Egypt. And the verse reads in chapter 12, they carried their dough, their unleavened bread, on their shoulders. And I asked the question.
And then the sun shined on them and made them into bread.
So that is a great midrash, a great interpretation of this story. But I asked the question. They took a few other things with them. One of the big things being their herds and their animals. And their animals carried their packs and their things as they left Egypt.
Their animals carry their...
The animals carried sacks on top of their backs. And so I am wondering why it was that the Israelites actually carried maybe the sticky dough, the unleavened bread that was not yet baked. Why they carried that
baked it.
on their backs. And Ella's even referencing a midrash that says that the sun baked it right on their backs. Well, Rashi, a very important Torah commentator, says that they brought the dough with them on their backs, literally carried it themselves, because it was such an important thing that
really
God
important.
Commanded.
So
I ask you, on this very important day, we're actually filming this on Inauguration Day. What is it that you are going to decide to carry upon your shoulders yourself? We cannot do everything, and we have to choose our actions. So I ask you, what important decisions are you going to decide to make? So we are going to be making matzah, which is what God commanded the people to eat. Did you know that you can make your own matzah? We've actually never done this before, but it is quite common for people to do it on Passover. And you only need a few things to make matzah. One is flour. So I have 3 cups of flour in our bowl. The other thing that we need is water. So I have 1.5 cups here. I may not use it all, but we're going to start with 1.5 cups. So you only need flour and water to make matzah. We're going to add a little bit of salt to ours because it makes it taste a lot better. So the only other thing that I have done is preheated the oven. You need it really hot, as if it were a fire oven. Whoa. So I preheated it to 500 degrees, and that's really important to do before you start.
That's how hot the sun is.
Maybe. It's really important to do before you start because it takes a little long to preheat it. And I want the oven to be ready when the dough is ready to go in. Traditionally, you're only allowed to use 18 minutes from the start to finish. So that is a good question. Why are you only allowed to have 18 minutes for kosher matzah?
But why do you only have 2 things to make matzah?
Because it was really simple. They didn't have very much with them, just flour and water. So Ella, why do you think they were only allowed to have 18 minutes to make their matzah? Did the Israelites leave Egypt really slowly, or did they leave really quickly?
Quickly. But why did they?
Quickly, right? Because they were in a big hurry to leave Egypt. So we're supposed to have that same experience on Passover, that experience of going from slavery to redemption. So we follow the same rules. So let's start to make our matzah. So I am going to pour the water slowly, just a little bit at a time, because I don't want to overdo it. And every time I put a little in, we're going to stir.
I want to stir this time.
So we're going to take
Can I stir by
turns
myself?
stirring. So once we stir it up, it hopefully will become a sticky dough that forms a ball. So
Can
I've
I
got a
help,
lot
Mama?
of stirring to do.
Can I help?
In just a moment once I get it more formed.
Okay.
So if we keep stirring and nothing happens, then that means we need to add a little more water. So you can see here that I have the dough starting to form, and we don't have very much time. So we just want to make sure that it is
really fast.
a
Can I do a little now?
ball of dough, and I think it's a little sticky, so we might need a little flour when we roll it out.
Oh yeah, it's really sticky.
Okay, so once we have a ball of dough, I am going to prepare a little more flour so that I can roll it out.
Mama?
So I have floured my rolling pin and I have turned the dough out onto a baking pan. You want to make sure that the baking pan is covered in either a mat, I have a silicone mat, or foil that is heavily oiled because the dough is going to stick. So we are going to roll it flat. I'm actually just going to start with half the dough at a time because it's probably going to spread really thick. I'm only going to start with a little bit at a time because I want to be able to roll this as thin as we can
And make
because
it into a square.
we want to be able to have it
thin
flat.
as you can.
Now Ella said you have to make it into a square. Square is the shape of the matzah that is made from a factory.
Mama.
But most homemade matzah is whatever shape you make it.
Can we make it a heart?
You could make it a heart if you want. But I'm going to do the muscle work of rolling this out.
I want to make it a circle. Can we shape it?
So here you can see I am getting it as thin as I can to the edge of my baking sheet.
Yeah, and this, for just the tip, guys, this might be a little bit messy.
Might be a little messy. So there's only a few more things we need to do before we put it into the oven.
Can we shape it?
One is that
Shape it.
we don't have that much time, so I'm not going to take our time shaping. I'm going to give us another job, which is to poke holes in it.
Oh,
2 forks. Holes wherever you can. Lots of holes.
I
like
want to
this.
make holes.
All over, because we don't want to create too many bubbles. So we want to poke it with holes.
Poke, poke.
Everywhere. Fill it up.
Poke, poke, poke. Woo! This is fun.
So now that our matzah is full of
Wait,
holes, a few more places, we're going to sprinkle a little salt on top of it.
Can I sprinkle?
Again, traditionally we wouldn't use salt, but it tastes a lot better if you give it a little
Okay,
flavor.
I need
So,
one more.
I'm just going to sprinkle some salt. And then we are going to put it into the oven, the 500-degree oven, for about 7 to 10 minutes. We're going to keep an eye on it. Hopefully it will get crisp. It's going to be a little bit different than that store-bought matzah.
Mama, what about, but then if we just do it like that, it will just be this big, weird, floppy piece of matzah.
Yes, we can always break it apart after it bakes. And if it comes out a little chewier or doughier than you're used to from the store-bought matzah, no fear. You can always make matzah pizza. So we are going to say goodbye for this week as we stick this in the oven. And remember the very important message that Rashi taught us this week, that question, what is it that you are going to carry on your back that is so important to you? So pick a cause on this inauguration day that's important to you, and let's commit to doing that. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue.